Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pen Vicarage. And it's Wednesday morning, hoping this finds you well and cheerful today. I don't know what you have planned for today. Personally, I'm hoping that this weather we had last night doesn't repeat this morning, because I'm hoping to play golf. Also, I hope it doesn't rain, and also golfers tend to get a bit sensitive about lightning strikes with that bit of metal in the air with a sweaty palm. It's not terribly good. So hopefully it doesn't rain, hopefully no lightning today, because I'm looking forward to a nice day and morning in the countryside today. But whatever you have planned for today, whatever it may be, whoever it's with, I hope you have a lovely, healthy and good day today. Now, there are parts of the Bible which I often think to myself, if I could only take that to heart, if I could only really go for it, I think I'd be a much happier person. And there are parts of my life when there are bits of the Bible that I think, if I could just take that to heart and transfer it from head to heart and really believe it and really go for it, I know it would make me a better Christian. And this morning's reading is one of them. It's taken from Luke's Gospel, and I'm reading verses, I'm going to read in a minute, chapter 12, verses 22 to 31. And it's in Matthew and Luke, and it's to give context, it's about sort of halfway through Jesus' ministry. And in Matthew's Gospel, it's called part of what's called the Sermon on the Mount. In Luke's Gospel, it's the Sermon on the Plain, but basically it's the same thing. And let's say it's about halfway into Jesus' ministry. And he's talking here about worry. And he's basically saying that worry is a silly thing to do. Because firstly, it doesn't help. And it doesn't achieve anything. And all it does is it just puts grey hairs on your head and just makes you stressed and tired. And what he's basically saying is, trust God. And if you trust God, you haven't got to worry. And like I said, I wish I could do it more. And I think if I did, there'd be far less grey hair on this head. And I think I'd be an easier person. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But let me read the passage first. It's Luke, as I say, Luke chapter 12, and I'm starting to read at verse 22. Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouses nor barn, yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to the span of life? If then you're not able to do such a small thing as that, why do you worry about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown in the oven, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And don't keep striving for what you to eat and what you to drink, and don't keep worrying, for it's the nations of the world that strive over all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, strive for his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Now, on the face of it, the message here is a very easy one. Don't worry, trust in God. Well, I could end the talk here, but I'm not going to. I think I want to just, as the Americans would say, just unpack this a little bit first. George Michael sang, you've got to have faith, the faith, the faith. And yes, I'm not going to sing it. And I don't know what he meant, but the point is there. Faith is something we all need. And faith, you see, is not just believing in God. The devil believes in God. Faith is about not just believing in God, but actually trusting God too. And that's what faith is really all about. Not just, as I say, not just believing in God, but actually trusting in God too. And if we properly trust God, then we actually don't need to worry. Because if we trust God, we trust God's got it in control, and therefore we haven't got to worry. But in reality, folks, I think if we're honest with ourselves, it's not quite that simple. I think we have to recognise, I think if we can name the beast a bit, I think it helps to make more sense with it. Faith is not just a binary thing. You haven't just either got faith or not. I think faith is something a bit more fluid than that. I think at some times in our life, trusting in God is easy. I think other times in our life, trusting God is a bit more of a challenge. So faith and trusting in God is something that comes and goes a bit. I think it varies with time. And I think it's worth remembering that. I think another thing that's worth saying is that for many of us, we can trust God in some parts of our lives, but in other parts of our lives, somehow we find it more difficult. I know that. There are certain parts of my life where I trust God implicitly. I never worry about anything about. But other parts of my life, I find very difficult, and they're the ones I lose sleep about. And so I think it's good to recognise first that in some parts of our lives, trusting in God is easy, and some parts of our lives it isn't. And likewise, it changes with time as well. I suppose in a sense, I'd like to just give us one or two hints this morning that you might find helpful. First thing I think I want to say is that faith actually is a transferable quality. You know when you get car park tickets and it says at the bottom, because parking tickets not transferable. Actually, faith is something which is transferable. I really do believe that one of the greatest gifts God given us is each other. And that is really, really true with faith. I remember 3 or 4 years ago, a couple of years ago, I was really, really worried about something. I was really, really worried about it. And I'd had a lot of trouble with it and stress and so on. And I just couldn't deal with it. And this person said, you haven't got faith for this, but I have. I believe that God's got this thing in hand. And because this person said that, then whenever I started worrying about it, I said, look, I'm not worried about it, but this person's fine about it, so they'll be fine. And so their faith kind of carried me. And so I really do believe that faith is a transferable skill. And I believe it's something we can do, and it's a way in which we can support each other. So if you're struggling with trusting in God with one part of your life, then share it with a friend and let them help you, let them carry it for you. I suppose something else I want to say is that, in a sense, trusting God only comes with experience. How does the psalmist put it? Taste and see that the Lord is good. And I think in a sense, we learn to trust God with time, and we only learn it in a sense by experience and by doing it. And so trusting God is something that comes with time. And I think in a sense, it also comes by going for it, by actually putting foot in the water and testing it. So I would encourage you today to try and trust God a little bit more, whatever's going on for you. But I think the other thing I want to say is, in the immortal words of that hymn we used to sing a lot when I was younger, seek first the kingdom of God, and these things will be added to you. At the end of the day, God knows what we need. God knows what's important to us. God knows what our daily bread is for us. And what Jesus is encouraging us to do is to put the kingdom of God first, and then trust God that he knows best for us for the rest. And I think it's about that. I think it's about priorities. It's about seeking first, putting God first, and then letting him deal with the rest. It's a challenge, folks, and I wish I was better at it. If I trusted God more, I'd have far less worry and sleepless nights. But recognise that faith is something that comes and goes, not only in different parts of our lives, but in time too. But I would encourage you to, on those times when it's a struggle, let other people in their faith carry you. I would encourage you also to try it. Try trusting in God more. Try leaving things at the foot of the cross, and not just putting them there, but leaving them there too. And finally, just by putting God first and putting him more in the middle of our lives, trusting him first and recognizing that he loves us, he's powerful, he knows what's best for us, and he's got it. May God bless you. Hope that's helpful. Put your comments at the bottom, questions, love to see them.